Hello and welcome to another video. And I'm not sure how this is going to come together. So essentially what I wanted to do was film some kind of vlog or real-time collection of reactions to my reading of the Wheel of Time series. And so I want to have one of these videos for each book. And that means that there are going to be 14 books, 14 videos plus the prequel. And that is going to take time. So this is not going to be a quick series, and I'll probably be doing this for the next year and a half, maybe 2 years. And you'll see a video whenever I've read one of those books. In summary, I know very little to nothing about the Wheel of Time. It's not a series that I have a ton of synopsis info for. It's just one that my boyfriend has read and highly recommends to me. I also know it to be generally thought of as a very good high fantasy, epic fantasy series. And so I really wanted to read it. And this set of videos is definitely going to be spoilery because I will be talking about things as I have read them. And I'm not going to hold back on talking about exactly what's happening in the book when I get to a certain point. So beware of that. If you haven't read them and you want to read them, and you want to avoid spoilers, this is not the place to be. I am going to be talking about spoilers. And I've been reading it for a while now. I'm kind of late starting this vlog. This is my copy. The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the new mass market paperback editions. They are being published as box sets of 3. So I have 1 through 3 already. 4 through 6 is out. 7 through 9 is out. 10 through 12 is coming out at the end of April, and then 13, 14, and the prequel are coming out in June. So this edition is the paperbacks with these covers. They're a little funky for a mass market paperback, like in proportions. They're much taller than they are wide. And this is my copy. This copy is the old version of the mass market paperback edition. Its proportions are far more what I'm familiar with for mass market paperbacks. And this is my boyfriend's copy. So this is the version that he owns. This is the one he's reading from. So part of why my vlog plans changed is because we did start reading this series together. So that happens in the evenings most often. And that means that it's going to be really hard for me to vlog like in between chapters or right after having read. Most of the time these will come up the next day or maybe a couple days later, and I'll recap. If I can get any live footage, I might, depending on if we take an afternoon to read, but that's why that has changed. And so we've got both these copies, and we did it for a couple of reasons. 1, we decided to read them together, which meant that we couldn't share a book. 2, I hate this cover art. I kind of hate it, and that was kind of bumming me out whenever I tried to start to read it. I read the prologue like 2 or 3 times and then never got very far because I'd look at it and it just doesn't look appealing. So I was having a hard time really getting into it. The other reason is that I really wanted to be able to annotate, especially because this is a really long series and there's a ton that's going to be going on and there's a ton to keep track of. And so I wanted to be able to annotate. And I decided not to use flags because it is part of a box set, and so I still want to be able to slip my book into the box and not have the flags get crushed. So I'm not using flags, but I am highlighting in different colors, and that's just to give me space to kind of flip back and see where a color was of a particular type. It's also to give me the opportunity to like reread this someday and then go back and add to my highlights or add notes and things like that, because I do anticipate rereading it someday. It's so long and it's supposed to be so good, and if I invest all this time into reading it once, I hope that it's good enough that I want to go back and reread it again eventually. It's a long book series, so it would take me forever to reread it. But yeah, I want to be able to keep these copies and to especially like get to the end of the series and then flip through some of my initial reactions or thoughts or types of highlights in the first few books and really see, was I right when I highlighted that as something that might be important later, or was I wrong? I thought this thing made me angry here, but did it make sense later? That kind of thing. And because I wanted to highlight and write in my books, I didn't want to highlight and write in my boyfriend's book. This is his copy. I didn't want to ruin it, so I got a new copy. And these aren't. Like, they're kind of pricey, but given how big the books are and the format they're in, they're like not overly pricey. So my box set was, I think it was like $24, $24 to $30, and it came with the 3 books. And so I think that's pretty good, especially given like the heft of them. And so let's see, we got to chapter 16. I started reading this, I think it's 4 days ago now, when we first started reading it. And so in those 16 chapters, the first day we read the prologue, and then chapters 1 through 3 titled An Empty Road, Strangers, and The Peddler. And both of those were good. I really like the prologue. The prologue is very mysterious. We are opening and there's this guy in a castle, and he's like surrounded by dead bodies, and he doesn't know where they came from or what's happening, and he's just looking for his family. And then there's this other guy that comes to him and does something essentially that seems to be meant to bring him back to the present. And when the guy is suddenly like, he's suddenly aware of where he is, who he is, and what he's done, and it's becomes apparent that he's the one that's killed all those people, including his family. And then at the very end, he like explodes or something with like magic. And so I don't know what that's about, but it's pretty interesting. And then in the first 2 chapters, we're introduced to a character named Rand and his father Tam, and they are walking into this village to give an innkeeper cider in time for a festival called Beltane, which I don't really understand what it's celebrating. I think it's meant to celebrate like winter to spring kind of celebration, but they're having an unusually long winter. So even though they're usually well into spring by now, it's very cold still, and people are having problems with wolves and growing crops and things like that. So things are looking pretty grim, but they still want to celebrate Beltane. By the end of chapter 3, we meet a peddler, someone named Padden Fane, I believe is his name, and he is always there during the Beltane time, and he brings with him news that there's a guy starting a war essentially somewhere else in the land, because he's claiming to be the Dragon Reborn. And the dragon is the name that was given to us at the very end of the prologue, I think for the guy who blew up in like magic and supposedly broke the world. And I don't know what that means, to have broken the world, but that's what he did. And there's this, supposedly he's going to come back, and there are a couple of different like interpretations for what that means, because after the prologue we get these epigraphs from people who are supposed to be from the 4th age, and that's kind of weird because when we start the book we're told that we're in the 3rd age, but we are also, let's see, it says here, in one age called the 3rd age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past. And that's really weird because this book also continues to refer to something called the Wheel of Time. And it opens with this pretty whimsical, like really fun to hear quote. The wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. So there's some kind of implied weird cyclical time going on. And I don't know how much that means. I don't know if there's like this idea that like civilization starts and it gets built and it goes forward and then it collapses and essentially restarts, or if time is literally cyclical and the same events that have happened are happening again, or something like that, if that makes sense, right? Like, I don't know what that means, that the ages come and pass, because there's something like, and this is going to be spoilers for the Starlight Archive series. But in that series, you've got a situation where in the history of time in that world, there are these things called desolations that set humanity back centuries in like technological progress. Like humanity starts, they build, they start learning their magic and their technology, and then there's a desolation and it's crumpled. It like destroys the civilization and they start over. And in that world, distillation have happened over and over again. And so when it comes to this, in the Wheel of Time, I'm like, okay, are we talking about cyclical ages in the sense that society has continued to encounter something that destroys it? Or are we talking about something where time is literally repeating itself? So I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but that's pretty cool. Then we got through like the next 3 chapters. So chapter 5 is called Winter Night, chapter 6, The Westwood, and chapter 7, Out of the Woods. I don't remember what happens exactly in each of those chapters, but I do know that soon after, like, they get there, they give their cider to people, and then Rand sees this mysterious black figure all covered in black and riding a horse following him, and he doesn't know why, but it freaks him out. And by the time he and his father get back to their farm, they're scared, and so they lock down their farm and they're settling in for the night, and then they get attacked by these things called Trollocs, and it's really hard for me to visualize them, but essentially they're super scary. They have like a humanoid form, I think, but very disfigured features and very animal-like, so like the face of a wolf or something like that. And they get attacked, and one of them tells Rand that a guy, Mindriel or something, wants to talk to him, but then it continues to attack him. So not the smartest. Trollocs are not the smartest creatures, but they get attacked. Tam gets injured, and I was losing it. I don't know why, but I love Tam. All right, he just wants to live on his farm and live a good, simple, hardworking life, and I just want that for him. And he got injured, and I was so afraid he was going to die, because it would be the classic protagonist starts because something terrible happens to them and they're thrust into adventure type of situation, and I was terrified that something was going to happen to Tam. But he did get seriously injured, and so Rand ends up having to carry him on like this little stretcher thing he made, and like drags behind him all the way to the town they had been in, which by horse takes them a few hours to walk. But now Rand is carrying his father through the night, and also hoping that the Trollocs don't come back and that the man in black doesn't come back. And so he's freaking out, and I'm freaking out because Tam's fever is getting worse and he's having these fever dreams, and one of them implies that he's not Rand's father. So I was like, what? Who is he? Who's Rand? So I don't know. Rand like dismisses it and says that it can't be true. He was just having a fever and it was just a dream. But come on, it's a story, but it has to mean more. So I'm excited to figure out what's going on there. They get to the town, and it turns out that the town has also been attacked by Trollocs, especially another 2 places. The homes of Rand's friends, who also saw the man in black, Matt Calhoun or Cahoon or something like that, and then Perrin Aibara, I think is his name, and they're Rand's friends, and they're also about the same age as him. And all of these 3 saw the man in black, and then their homes were specifically targeted. But then there was like collateral damage, and essentially the whole town really got a lot of damage. So Rand's having trouble getting like good help, and he goes to someone called the Wisdom, who's this like woman who has like healing powers, and I don't really know exactly what she can do yet. I don't fully understand the role of the Wisdom. But she essentially says that she can't help him and that his father's too far gone. And I was like, no, that can't be. I don't want Tam to die. So Rand goes and hunts down this lady who came to the village very recently, and she's important because, one, it's a very small town and they don't often get strangers, but she comes in and she turns out to be something called an Aes Sedai, who's kind of like a witch, wizard, sorceress person, I think. She has powers of some kind, and there's a lot of stories and myths surrounding them, and most of the time in those stories they're villains. So when it comes out that she's this type of person, people are super scared of her now, and they think that she's the reason that destruction has fallen upon the town. But in helping Rand heal Tam, she reveals that she actually thinks that the Trollocs are there for the 3 boys, and that's why they attacked. Because for whatever reason, someone called the Dark One wants them. And it's not clear why he wants them. It's not clear if he wants them to help him. It's not clear if he wants to destroy them. It's not clear if he thinks they're a threat, but he wants them and he's going to keep coming back. They're dangerous, so they have to leave. So they leave with the sorcerer lady. Her name is Moraine. I think it's Moraine. And they leave. We go through chapters 9 through 15. So chapter 9 is called Tellings of the Wheel. 10, Leave Taking. 11, The Road to Terran Ferry. 12, Across the Terran. 13, Choices. 14, The Stag and Lion. 15, Strangers and Friends. So at the end of it all, Moraine's like, I don't know, but bodyguard, assistant person, Lan, Bran's friends, Matt and Perrin, and a girl named Egwene, who is also in the town, all leave. Egwene hops along just because she wants to not be stuck in the town. Her goal, she was in training to become a wisdom as well, but that was going to be problematic because the wisdom appears to be a lifelong position and the current one was pretty young, so she's going to be there forever. And that means that if Egwene wants to actually become a wisdom or make something of herself, she's going to have to leave this town that nobody ever leaves. So it's a pretty big deal, but she tugs along, hoping for some adventure. And honestly, I hate Egwene. She's so annoying. And so she just gets mad so easily and so angry. And then she stops listening and she doesn't engage in true conversation. She just seems so aggressive all the time. So that's why I don't like Egwene. But anyway, they're traveling and get to a new city and a lot of stuff happens, but this check-in is getting super long, so I'll leave it summarized super briefly that they get to the city and Rand and his friends have a weird, crazy dream where this guy like talks to them about how they are going to be used or something. Honestly, the point of the dream was pretty ambiguous. I don't fully understand what the message was, but at the same time, it's important because it's clear that, it's not clear, but it's implied that it might not be just a dream, that someone was actually talking to them, and so their dreams might not be safe. They don't know who they can trust. They're worried about what happens if they confide in Moraine, who might actually know more about what's happening, but also might be ruthless enough to think it's a problem and ditch them or kill them. That's been implied, that if she thinks they're dangerous and she can't control them, boom, they're out. So I don't know what's going to happen. End of the last chapter, chapter 15. They're going in to face the wisdom from their town, who has also somehow made it to this city, and so they're walking into the inn that they're staying at to really figure out what's going on. Why is she there? What has she said? What does she want? And then for now, they're deciding not to share their dreams with anybody except themselves. And then one guy, this guy called the Gleeman, who's like a traveling storyteller and like performer, who has also joined along with their caravan. And his name is Tom Thorin. But I was pronouncing his name as Thom forever because it's T-H-O-M. But my boyfriend says his name, it's pronounced Tom. So I'm gonna pronounce it Tom for now. But it's a weird name. Anyway, they confided in him. And then they went on to... He also recommended that they not tell Moraine. So I don't know what's going to happen. I've definitely brushed over a lot of things, but it's a big book. I'm on page 242. And we're about a quarter of the way through the book. It's a little over 800 pages. I'm a little over 200 of the way through. So we're like a quarter of the way through. And I think that I'll try to check in slightly more regularly, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll have a few installments to this video and just kind of run through a summary of the book and my initial reactions. That might be how this goes for the most part. But yes. Okay, so another update. It is now April the 23rd, and I haven't done that much reading the past couple of days, but I have gotten to chapter 20. And I think last time I made an update, I was on chapter 16. So I've done about 4 more chapters. Yesterday we only read 1 because I was really tired. But some crazy things are going on. They got to a town or a city, like an abandoned city. It's called Shadar Logoth, or it was also called, I forget what else it was called, but it's this weird city that like something happened in there during the Trolloc Wars, and now people don't go in it. And so they were being attacked by like this army of Trollocs, and they went to hide in that city. And now they're leaving because the Trollocs are like passing through the city, and they're not looking for them. They're trying really hard to avoid staying in the city longer than possible, but they are like we're headed straight for them. So they're going to pass through the area where Rand and his like caravan of people are hiding, so they have to run away. And so they're on the way out of the city now, but while in the city, crazy things happened that I don't really understand, except for the fact that I'm pretty sure Matt, his name Matt Cahoon or something, yeah, he is so dumb. I'm so frustrated. I was so frustrated with him in the city because he, the past several chapters, has shown himself to be someone who like he like talks without thinking. And so he starts to tell people about things that the group is trying to hide, and like people he can't trust suddenly know different things about them. And he's the one that decided to go exploring for treasure in the abandoned city and found this like crazy, I don't even know what he was. I don't know if like a ghost or a sorcerer or a demon, I don't know. There was like a guy in the city, and supposedly if they had taken anything from him or done him any favors, he would have been able to take over their body and leave the city, but the city traps him. And so that was a close one, but they got away from him because they didn't actually take anything. But Matt was definitely about to take everything and was super into the idea of the treasure and started telling him everything about the Trollocs. And I was like, wow. So that's happening. Egwene has started to like, she has aspirations to become an Aes Sedai. So that's interesting. It's like a wizard person, I think. I don't know. And that's it. So I don't know what's about to happen. They just left the city, and I'm hoping that later today we'll get to read several chapters, like 4 or 5. I'm on page 304 of my book, like right there. And if we can read, let's say 5 chapters. Let's aim high, right? If we read 5 chapters, we'll get down to 388. So I'm looking to read like 80 pages today. And I think we can do it, if I don't get sleepy. But I got good sleep last night, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, so another check-in on the Wheel of Time. We are on chapter 37 now, and I thought that a couple of days without checking in wouldn't be like that big a deal. I didn't expect us to read as much yesterday as we did. We read like 100 pages just yesterday. And so where before it had only been like 5 more chapters since the last time I updated this vlog, now we are at chapter 37, and I think it has been 17 chapters. So a lot has happened, and I'm not going to go through all of it in great detail. I'm just going to kind of do some reflections on kind of the overall scheme and where people are now and what I'm thinking about like is going to happen. So first, they got split up. We're trying to get to Whitebridge, and they got split up. And so now we have like 3 point of views going on. We have Perrin, who is traveling with Egwene, and they are trying to get to Caemlyn, but they met this guy, Elias or Ls or something like that. And he had like these wolves that were friends, and Perrin had this weird ability to communicate with the wolves and like really know what they were thinking. And so that's kind of weird. I don't know. I've been jokingly telling my boyfriend that Perrin is a werewolf. I don't really think he's a werewolf, but I don't know what's going on with him at all. And then we have Nynaeve, Moiraine, and Lan are traveling. They're also heading to Caemlyn. Haven't seen them in a while. The last time I saw them, they were deciding who to go after, and they were heading towards Caemlyn-ish because they were tracking Rand and Matt on a boat. But then they got to Whitebridge and they weren't there, and I think now they've decided to backtrack and go to try to find Perrin, because I think Perrin still has his silver token that Moiraine gave him in the first few chapters, and that lets her track them and like know where they are. So I think that's where they're going now. And then the last point of view is Rand, who's traveling with Matt, and he was traveling with Tom, but we lost Tom because they were in Whitebridge. They made it to Whitebridge, but they were attacked by a Fade, or a Fade was coming towards them. And so to divert the Fade, Tom attacked it and told Rand and Matt to run. And then we had this long sequence of like 5 or 6 chapters that was nothing but Rand and Matt. We didn't see the other points of views, which honestly worked for me because I love that point of view most right now. And some crazy things are happening. They finally made it to Whitebridge, but then they were headed to Camelin. And for a while, they were using skills that Tom had taught them while on the ship. They spent some time on a ship traveling towards Whitebridge, and their cover story was that they were training to be gleemen like Tom, and so he was teaching them stories and how to play instruments and how to juggle. And so for a while, Matt and Rand used those skills to get housing at inns. They would stop at inns, tell them they have music and juggling, and then the innkeeper would allow them to stay, give them room and board basically in exchange for them playing in the night because their music attracted more people. And they did that for a while, but then they came into this really sketchy inn, and this guy was essentially going to rob them, but then they were also attacked by a dark friend. And at the end of it all, they were in this cellar where the door was locked, and they escaped only because lightning struck a window and like decimated the window and the wall in that room, and they were able to get out. And so that's pretty wild. Like, why did the lightning strike at such an opportune time? I don't know why the lightning struck. But then they kept traveling, and they were traveling in the rain, which is pretty wild. It was dark, they were wet, it was probably not a good time. And they ended up stopping in a couple other places, still getting attacked by dark friends. One of them, Rand, fell really ill. He had fevers and shakes and chills, and he was super weak and he couldn't move or walk. And he ended up spending the night in a stable with Matt. And I don't know what that's about. Honestly, based on some things that I have heard about the Wheel of Time, and then some things that Maureen said earlier when she was talking to Nynaeve, I think that Rand has the one power, or I think he can touch the one power. Because I'm pretty sure that Maureen said something about how when someone first touches the one power, one of the things that can happen is that for a short period of time, they have like an inexplicable illness. And that seems to be what's happening with Rand. Now, it's technically explicable because he did travel through the rain, but he's the protagonist, or at least right now he appears to be the protagonist. He's the person whose point of view we have been following the longest, and this is a story. And I'm pretty sure it involves a man who has the ability to touch the one power and goes crazy with it. That's what I feel like I've heard about the Wheel of Time. So I'm kind of waiting for it to happen. And on the one hand, I don't know if I like having that knowledge. Like, if it's right. Do I like the fact that I know I'm expecting this kind of story? Or would I rather have been able to go in with nothing at all, no knowledge at all, and then see this happen to one of the characters? I don't know. It's too late to go back. I've heard things, but still, it's kind of tragic. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to expect. As far as like, what will I really see? I don't know. It's just something that I feel like I've heard. But Matt and Rand did make it to Camelin, finally. And they are now staying in the Queen's Inn. The Queen's Blessing, which is an inn that Tom told them to search out for when they got to Camelin. And so hopefully nothing crazy happens there. The innkeeper seems like a legit guy. Seems like he really wants to help them. Matt is being a weirdo. Like, he's so aggressive and so paranoid, like more than usual. And for a while, Matt was just kind of dumb. Like, the first several chapters, I thought he was just kind of dumb. But now he's also super aggressive. And they were like getting kicked out of farms that had promised them a place to sleep, and who suddenly had things come up and asked them to leave because Matt would like be staring at them super aggressively and super shiftily. And Matt was staring at them because he thought they were suspicious and expected them to be dark friends, but they kicked them out because Matt was being a weirdo and they were strangers, you know? So like, I understand. And on the one hand, Matt definitely has a lot going on, and there's definitely a lot for them to be like suspicious of. But on the other hand, it seems like he's going too far, and so I don't know why. I don't know if that's just Matt or if something else is going on there. They continue to have dreams with Balsamon, and yeah, so right now I'm hoping for some downtime. Honestly, this is it's a really crazy book because it's so thick, and I'm like right here. We're gonna finish in the next couple of days, 2 or 3, and all they've been doing is running. I don't even know why they're running. Like, it's not clear what they are, why the dark one is sending his dark friends after them. Like, what does he want from them? What does he think they can do? I have no idea. And then it's called The Eye of the World, and The Eye of the World has been mentioned a couple of times but not explained. Like, I don't know what it is. They have had dreams where Balsamon is like, the eye of the world will not work for you, or the eye of the world will not serve you, or something like that. And I don't know what that means. Is the eye of the world the title of a person? Is it a weapon? Is it like a magic? I have no idea. And I'm this far in the first book that's titled The Eye of the World. So it's really weird because I've never read a story that has the kind of scale and uses the length of time to do things as the Wheel of Time. You know, like, relatively little has happened. They're just running from the Dark One and trying to reach Camelin. Ultimately, Tar Valon, but I mean, right here, they barely reached Camelin, and Tar Valon is just as far from Camelin as Camelin was from the 2 rivers, and it's taken them forever to get there. So, like, they're barely halfway to Tar Valon right now. I don't expect them to get there in this book. And, like, in a regular story, that would be nothing. Like, they would not have progressed very much. But at the same time, this whole book isn't even a 10th of the series. You know what I mean? So, like, things are slower, and my boyfriend told me to expect, like, more time to be taken on things that in other stories that were shorter would be, like, fewer pages. This traveling would take, like, a third of a book, maybe, in a smaller series. So, they're doing, like, a ton. They're focusing a lot on that. At the same time, I do kind of really enjoy it. I really loved the chapters with Rand and Matt as they were traveling, and, like, seeing them find the different inns and find, like, use the skills that Tom taught them and things like that. I don't know, it was just fun. So that was pretty interesting, and I don't know, like, I feel like I've read so much, and I feel like I know more about the characters as people, at least Rand and Perrin. They're both point of view characters that I've spent some time with, and less about the world. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what things are and what's happening. There's the dragon who is also in Camelin, the supposed fake dragon, who I think is supposed to be in the prologue. We had this guy who, like, exploded and broke the world, whatever that means. I think he's the dragon, and supposedly he's supposed to be reborn, and I don't know what that means. But in Camelin, there's a guy, Logain, I think, who has claimed to be the dragon reborn, and now people are like, no, that's just a fake dragon. It's still a little ambiguous about whether that's true, but I'm starting to feel like it might be true. Like, he's not the real dragon reborn. I don't know. The titles of the other books are also giving me lots of ideas, because the 3rd book is called The Dragon Reborn. So I don't know what happens there, but hopefully we'll get some confirmation on who or if the dragon has been reborn. And then book 2 is called The Great Hunt, and right now we are hearing news of people traveling to Ilion in order to join the hunt for the Great Horn. And it's a horn that's in a fable, like a tale that Tom has said. So they're going to, like, find the horn, which I think is the same horn that's in that story. And the 2nd book is called The Great Hunt. So I kind of expect our main cast of characters to head towards that hunt for some reason. Or maybe we follow a completely different set of characters, people who actually are in Ilion going on the Great Hunt. Because I also am pretty sure that the Wheel of Time expands to have several different types of POV characters. And so maybe we do something different in the 2nd book. I don't know. Egwene, I don't know. She kind of annoys me all the time. Like, every single thing she says, I find irritating. But yeah, that's in part because she's aggressive, like, unnecessarily so. Like, characters say things to her and she jumps on them. And I don't know why she feels the need to be so aggressive. Like, more than everyone else. So that's kind of annoying to me. Like, it's not just, I don't know, she's unusually aggressive. I kind of like, or I'm interested in Moiraine. Nynaeve is alright. Honestly, I just don't have a lot of info about either of them. I think it's funny how there's this like running, it's almost like a running joke at this point in this book, where every time Rand or Perrin encounters a girl that's like flirting with them, they think about how they wish the other was there to help them with girls. So Perrin, in his narration, he's thinking about how Rand is so good with girls and how he wishes Rand could be there to give him advice. And then when Rand encounters a girl, he thinks about how good Perrin is with girls and how he wishes he were there to give him advice. And so I think that's kind of funny because they both think the opposite. Like, neither of them thinks they're good at talking to girls, and yet the other one admires them for it. And I think that's funny. So that's this update. I will probably start updating every day. Today's the April the 27th. And I'll probably be doing updates every day at this point because we are planning to read a lot today and a lot tomorrow. And if we haven't finished it by tomorrow, we'll be finishing it up the day after. And so lots is gonna happen, or at least lots of pages will be read, and I want people to talk about them in smaller chunks. Whew. All right, so that's that. We're nearing the end of this vlog. Like, look. But that's this update. I will be back when more has happened. Okay. So another update for the Wheel of Time. It is Tuesday, April the 28th. And yesterday we read like 7 chapters. And I was exhausted by the end of it. We started reading later than usual. And so then we were up reading later than usual. And my eyes hurt. But we are now on chapter 44. And I think when I last left off, we were on like chapter 30-ish. No, we didn't read that much. We were on chapter 37, I think. They had just gotten to Camelin. And in this section, everyone finally got back together, which was so nice because, I don't know. One, when they're all together, we usually get Rand's point of view, and I love those chapters the most. The next thing is that, I don't know, like, they haven't been together for several chapters, and so now they're all back together, and hopefully, you know, things won't be as bad, because for a while there was like a lot of stuff happening. Lan and Moiraine and Nynaeve saved Perrin and Egwene from the White Cloaks. They had gotten captured so that they could, White Cloaks thought they were dark friends. So yeah, they saved them from those people. Oh, and I think the craziest thing that happened in this section is that Matt has been a crazy person. Like, he has been ultra paranoid, like getting him and Rand kicked out of farms because he's looking at people sketchily, and he has been weird. And honestly, I keep expecting someone to have the power. Like, I don't know why I feel this so strongly. I can't remember where I heard it from. I don't know, but I keep expecting one of the male characters to ultimately have access to the one power, and they're going to have to use it, and it's going to drive them crazy, like the guy in the prologue, except we're going to watch it happen to one of the main male characters, something like that. But it hasn't happened yet. I'm like primed for it to happen. So that's what I thought was happening to Matt. That is what I expected to be happening to Matt. However, it turns out that when they were in Shadar Logoth or something like that, this like creepy city where I told you some other time ago that there was like a force there, and I didn't know if it was a ghost or a demon or what. It's kind of more of a force. I think that's the most accurate word to use for what was going on there. Like, evil and hatred turned hurtful, but like physically hurtful. And the thing with that is that they weren't supposed to take anything. Well, it turns out that Matt had a dagger from this person's treasure trove, and he didn't think there was going to be anything wrong with it because it wasn't a gift to him. He like just stole it, but there was a problem with it. And what ended up happening is that it was driving Matt crazy, and it was making him really angry, and it was essentially like eating him up from the inside, and it was going to kill him. And Moiraine learned this like as soon as she saw him, and she was able to fix him, and now Matt is better, but he he's still being slowly poisoned by the dagger, and he can't get rid of the dagger because it's too closely connected with him now. And so they have to get to Tar-Valon in order for them to like disconnect him from the dagger. And so for right now, he has to keep it on his person, and it's going to make him angry and paranoid again. But for now, like, he's okay for now. So he's mostly back to normal. And then at the very end, they learned that they had to go somewhere. And oh, they met Loyal. I love Loyal so much. He's so cute. Loyal is an Ogier, and it's hard for me to visualize what an Ogier is, but they are non-human, a very ancient people with like really long lifespans, because Loyal is considered really young, but he's 90 years old. And right now they're talking to him about using something called the ways, which are like gateways that make distance really short. But over time, they have become corrupted, and so now they're super dangerous. People go in and they don't know what they're going to encounter, and often they don't come out at all, or they come out damaged in some form and are never the same again. But I don't remember why they're doing this. They have to go somewhere. I think they're trying to find the Green Man. And I don't know where the Green Man is, and I don't know who he is, but he's related to the Eye of the World, because they finally shared with Maureen that they have been getting messages from Balsamon that the Eye of the World is, or Balsamon is essentially saying that he thinks he has corrupted the Eye of the World and it won't work for them. I think. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the Eye of the World is. Something has me thinking that it could be something to do with the Great Serpent, which I also don't know what the Great Serpent is. But Loyal asks Maureen a question where he says something along the lines of, is it true that Balsamon could really have corrupted the Eye of the World? Could he really have slain the Great Serpent? And those two questions together made it seem like the two were linked. Maybe they aren't linked at all. I don't know. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I feel like every time I come into one of these, I tell you what has happened, and then I tell you I'm really confused. And I think that that's this whole book. I am still very confused, right? Like we have had a whole book, and there's so much I don't know. There's also more stuff I do know. I feel like I have connected more with some of the characters, but not some of the greater, particularly ancient parts of the world. I still don't know a ton about. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next, how it's going to go through the gateways. I don't know what's going to happen in this last little chunk. I still don't know what the Eye of the World is. I just don't know what to expect. I don't know where I expect them to end up by the end of this book. So I guess we're going to find out. My hair is a mess. Okay, so I am here with the final update on the first book in the Wheel of Time series, The Eye of the World. So it's Thursday, April the 30th, and my boyfriend and I finished reading this book yesterday on the 29th. It took us all said about a week and a half to read this book. And I'm so confused. I feel like I read this entire thing and I'm still confused. In the last several chapters, you finally learn what the Eye of the World is. So I learned that it's it's a weird name. It's a weird name for what they called this pool of like pure Satan, which is like the male half of the one power source thing. Like a lot of Aes Sedai, both men and women, got together to collect this power, and they died doing so because they thought that it would be needed when they most needed it for something. And it was guarding these like artifacts, one of the seals for the Dark One in his prison in Sheol Ghul. I think it's Sheol Ghul, in his prison. And then the horn, the Great Horn of Valor or something like that, which I thought the second book was going to be about. I thought the Great Hunt was going to be about the hunt for the horn, but there is no hunt. The horn is right there. So I don't know what that's about. I did learn that it's a horn that supposedly can summon Warriors of the Dead or something like that. And then it also housed, I think those were the two big things. Oh, and a cloak, a flag, a banner of the dragon or something like that. And this one power source thing ultimately got siphoned by Rand, who used it to defeat one of the Forsaken, or two of the Forsaken, who are like the Dark Ones. I don't know, like super powerful Aes Sedai during the time when the Dark One was around, and like they were on his side, and then they got imprisoned with him in his prison. And I don't fully understand everything. I don't know all the implications. I don't know what the greater story is about, because one, Rand used the one power to defeat the Forsaken and to kill Baelzamon. And I thought Baelzamon was the Dark One, and he seems dead at the end of the world, the Eye of the World. So what are the other 14 books about? Because it's 15 total if you count the prequel, the series. What are the other 14 books about? I thought this whole thing was going to be Rand trying to kill Baelzamon, and then he killed Baelzamon. So I don't know what to expect. And then at the end, there are some weird implications going on with the fact that Rand summoned the power from the Eye of the World, because that means he's a male Aes Sedai and he can access Satan, and that is a corrupted power. So if he uses that power, he's going to go crazy. Technically, it's believed that he has some control, or can learn to control whether he draws from the power, and so if he doesn't, technically he should be okay, or mostly okay. This is a 15 book epic series, so I doubt he's going to be okay, and I doubt he's going to be able to avoid using the power, but I don't know why he would need to. So that's going to be interesting to see in the future books. There's also something called gentling, which is when the Aes Sedai like cut off a man's connection to the one power, but supposedly it's like, it's no good. The people after that feel such a sense of loss from being cut off from the one true power that they often want to die anyway, or at least that's one thing that Rand said. So I don't know what's going to happen. The Green Man, I learned who the Green Man was. He was like this tree man guarding the Eye of the World, and he died. I don't really understand what he died to do. I think he killed one of the Forsaken, or like protected people. It was weird. It was a weird ending, and I don't know what the rest of the series is going to be about. At the end of the day, I think I rated the book as a whole something like 4 stars, because it was good. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the middle part, especially. Even if there was a lot of like the same, like they'd get to a place and then suddenly the Trollocs would find them, and then they'd run, and they'd get to another place, but then the Trollocs would find them and they'd run. Like that was most of the book, but it was also a very enjoyable most of the book, because those were really fun things to read about. I also really liked the Rand and Mat chapters when they were traveling on their own. Those were a lot of fun too. But I was a little too confused to have that really like excited 5-star feeling, and also a little like just a little lost. And the characters were good. I liked Rand and Mat. I don't like Egwene. I hate Egwene. Maybe more than she deserves, but I don't think so. I don't like her. Maybe she will prove herself to be more likable later, but I don't like her. Maybe she's not supposed to be likable, in which case, good job. I don't like her. Other characters like Maureen, I don't really know what her deal is. There was some, I guessed like far earlier that there was going to be some kind of romance between Nynaeve and Lan, and Nynaeve kind of hinted that she was into Lan when they were in the Blight, and Lan essentially turned her down because he was like, my job is too dangerous, and it doesn't, you're too awesome. I wouldn't want you to become a widow super quickly because I'm gonna die on the job, or something like that. That's what it seemed like. It was so, everything they were saying was like one level beneath explicitly saying it. Everything was just kind of hinted at. So it was kind of hard for me to follow definitively. I'm still very confused about a lot of aspects of the world, but I am excited to continue the series and see what else happens, because I don't know what else is going to happen. I feel like I had this idea and now I don't know where it's going to go. I especially don't know how it lasts 14 books. So I guess we're gonna find out. So that has been the first installment of my reading of the Wheel of Time series, with the conclusion of The Eye of the World. Next is going to be The Great Hunt, so look out for that. We are reading it right now, immediately after this one, so the delay on that shouldn't be too long. There'll probably be another vlog on that book in like a month or so. And yeah, so let me know if you've read The Wheel of Time. What did you think of The Eye of the World? Please, no spoilers in the comments, because I am still reading the series, and we'll see what happens next. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.